you are not, as a business owner, as a branch manager, as a loan officer, as a salesperson, going to bat 100%.
Nope.
And if you are, then you are literally only going after the lowest hanging.
You're doing one deal.
Welcome to The Growth Mindset, the podcast for ambitious real estate and mortgage professionals. Hosted by Adam Crosley and Rick Riddle, this show dives into entrepreneurial strategies, sales techniques, and mindset hacks designed to fuel your career growth. Get ready to learn from top producers, gain actionable insights, and start your journey towards success. Here's your hosts, Adam and Rick.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this episode of The Growth Mindset. I'm Rick Riddle with my co-host,
Adam Crosley.
Adam, I am proud to say I'm a failure.
You're a failure. I'm a failure.
You know what? And that's okay. And that's what we're going to discuss today. Failing, right? Talking about the power of failure.
The power of failure. Okay, cool.
You know, there's a, obviously, you know, I'll start with our shameless plug as usual and use theladderbook.com. I dedicated a whole chapter to one of my favorite fictional characters. It's a fictional quote.
Fictional quote, okay.
From the great Rocky Balboa.
Oh, Rocky. All right.
It is not how hard you hit, it is how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward, right? Like, and I think about failure,
yep.
Right? And that's what we're going to talk about is failing. Mm-hmm. Because I think that many times we talk about all the glory and all the, you know, and obviously on this podcast, we've talked about work and effort and
exactly
time blocking and focus and energy and positive mental attitude. But let's be honest, if you never fail, you're not growing.
Okay. If you're not pushing yourself and hitting the wall, hitting the limits, you're never gonna get through. You're never gonna, you know, like you're gonna get knocked back down. In business, in life specifically, you're gonna get punched in the face.
Yeah. If not, then you're not growing.
Yeah. I mean, well,
it's funny.
Mike Tyson, right? Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face on the Rocky themes.
Yeah.
But it's being able to take those hits and keep on going. It's being able to take those hits, maybe taking a step back, learning from them. One of my favorite quotes, John Maxwell, fail early, fail often, but fail forward.
Yeah.
And there was like an old IBM quote, right, of the guy, the founder of IBM, like if you want to grow, double your rate of failure.
Yeah, you're right. There's that Thomas Edison, right?
Yep. That's great.
He actually had a quote that said, "I have not failed.
Mm-hmm.
I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work."
That won't work.
Right. And I guess for each way that won't work, he's learned what doesn't work, which gets him one step closer to finding out what does work.
Which I think that's kind of the biggest thing with failure is reflection. Like, because it's definition of insanity. This is a quote day here today. Definition of an insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So I think how you fix failure is you reflect on what to do next time. Not stop doing the thing that you don't need to do, not, pound the stone, so to speak, but like make the calls, do the work, do the effort. And I think there's micro failures and there's massive failures.
And both are okay, by the way.
For sure. And honestly, double your rate of failure. You want to grow, find other ways that don't work.
Yeah. There's so Carl White, obviously we mentioned him a lot, and hopefully we'll get him on the episode soon. But he was telling a study about and I'm going to mess up the names because I'm not a Formula One race car guy, but I guess it's Rolsch. Did he ever tell you the story of Rolsch Motors or whatever? So he goes,
We're not familiar.
while other companies, so for lack of a better word, I'll call it Rolsch. I think it's right there. He said most Formula One engineers figure out ways to make their cars not break down. And what he did was the opposite. He broke he did everything he could. He said, he told his engineers, break my engine.
Break it.
Right? And then break it, make it stronger, and then break it again. And he tells about the story, and unfortunately, I didn't do enough homework to think about the story that I'm literally off the top of my head. But he talked about, so they put the engine on, and they put it on going, 10,000 RPMs or whatever, whatever redlining is on a Formula One race car, went away for lunch, and an hour later, the camshaft broke. So you know what they did? They built a better camshaft.
Yep.
And they put it back on, 10,000 RPMs, went out for lunch, and then the gasket blew a head gasket.
Yeah.
Because what he did, he built a better head gasket. And then so on and so on and so on and so on, almost failing on purpose, right? To make it perfect or to make it better or to improve. Like you think about, I think I've shared the story of Tiger Woods, right? Tiger Woods held all 4 majors, right? They called it a Tiger Slam because he didn't do it all in 1 year, but he had 4 majors at the same time. Held them all, right? 2 in 1 year, 2 in the next year, whatever, 3 in 1, whatever it was. He had all 4 at the same time. And then he fired his swing coach because he said, I want to get better.
Yep.
Now, that wasn't failure necessary, but it is the growth mindset, right? It's like, I want to do more. I want to grow more. And I think about, you truly only fail when you quit.
A lot of lesson there.
It's just a journey.
Yeah.
It's a journey of discovery. And like you said, I think you made a right point. It's reflection, right? If you quit or if you fail at something and didn't learn anything, then one of 2 things.
Well, it's ignorance.
It could be ignorance. Like I think about a loan officer losing a deal, right?
Sure.
You lose a deal, and I used to do this all the time. I would lose a deal to rate, or I would lose a customer, and I would reflect back. Someone that I thought I had, and I would say, okay, what could I have done differently? And usually there's a lot of things if you really are true to yourself and you're an internalist, and I think people with the growth mindset are internalists, right? They don't blame outside forces.
The problem.
Right? So I would look back and say, okay, well, I probably should have spent more time building rapport. Or maybe, you know what, I didn't realize the decision maker really was the wife. I probably should include her in the conversation from the onset and build rapport with her. Or maybe, you know what, I probably should have gone over 3 or 4 different loan options, whatever it was, right? Maybe I should have got them face to face. Maybe I should have included the realtor. Maybe I should include the listing agent. Oh, the financial planner, maybe I lost the deal to the financial planner's mortgage company. I probably should have called the financial planner and built a relationship with them. Whatever it is, I looked at it as a teaching moment. But if I truly tried to do that and didn't come up with the problem, then it is what it is, right? Like I think a lot of times people fail on a one-off and then completely change their swing. Right? Like I think about baseball players, right? And I know I'm going through a lot of analogies. And, baseball players don't think of, hey, I'm going to hit 300 this year. I mean, that might be their goal. Or I'm going to hit 50 home runs. But what they really focus on is the elbow, the eyes, the hips, the weight distribution.
The minute details that are part of the larger picture.
Right. So if I strike out, and I say to myself, and I'm an internalist in that scenario, I'll be like, yeah, in that bat, I didn't have, my hips weren't, like I look at the tape and my swing coach is like, yeah, you know what, your hips were wrong on this one, or, you shifted late on your swing. Okay, that's what I could work on. But if I really look at it and did everything right, the pitcher just got me that day.
Yep.
You know what the answer is? Next. Right? Don't change anything. So sometimes people are too quickly to change at failure. Why? Because they didn't have a plan to see it through. But some people are so ignorant that they don't change, or they start to externalize their issues. Well, it wasn't me, it was the pitcher. The pitcher's better than me, right? If they start to do that too many times, they lose their growth mindset. They become external in thought, and they are an externalist, and they blame others for their failure. And that's a really bad problem to be in. So I think there's that delicate balance of letting thy own self be true. Can I improve? Yes, then do it. Use the failure as a way to improve. Tweak my stance to do better. Or I didn't give enough sample size. Let me do it a couple other times. Let me run my current procedure through tests. Right? Because think about it. You make, you as a coach, you've said multiple times on this podcast, my job's kind of boring. I do the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again. And you are successful in the long term. But you get a lot of no's. No's aren't necessary. And I think people think no's are failure. Yeah. And it's not. Failure is...
You talked about baseball earlier, right? And I'm sorry, finish that point.
No's aren't failure. No's by themselves aren't failure. Strikeouts by themselves aren't failure. Going 0 for 30 with 30 strikeouts is probably a failure. For sure. And now you have to do something differently.
Yep.
Right? You have to tweak your game. But I think what happens is people think a no, the first, like you're cold calling realtors. And you get 5 no's in a row. You didn't fail yet. You don't have a big enough sample size to tweak your game.
Correct.
And at the very least, don't give up. Now, if you literally picked up the phone and said, I'm going to call with no script, no plan, no thing, I'm just going to start randomly dialing, you got 5 no's, well, maybe you should have a little bit of dialogue, a little bit of coaching, but don't tweak just for tweak's sake. Tweak with intentionally perfect based on the failures, but make sure you have a large enough sample size.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. So, if somebody's in baseball, right? If they bat a 300, which is perfect, means they miss 70% of the time.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's what it means. It means they didn't win 30% of the time. They didn't hit 30% of the time because they missed 70% of the time.
Right. And I would venture to guess that 300 hitter, which in most cases, if you're a 300 hitter, you're going to be in the Hall of Fame.
For sure.
I would bet that 300 hitter is still looking ways to improve 1% to be a 303 hitter.
Yeah.
Or 10% would be a 330 hitter.
330, exactly.
Right? So they're probably not even looking at 10% swings. They're probably looking like, what can I tweak just a little bit?
But in all reality, I like the baseball analogy in sales because the very best, the Hall of Famers, fail 70% of their at-bats. Like in sales, like for me, it's probably 2 or 3 out of 10 on my sales calls. Hey, I think the average salesperson, the average mortgage salesperson, if they're trying to, get a realtor relationship, they make 5 calls, to your point, and everybody says no, and they feel like a failure. You really do need to swing at 40 or 50 dials in a calling session. And again, if you, on a 50 dial calling session, I'm just using that because the math is easier, and you get 15 really good conversations or 15 yeses to me, like that's amazing.
Right.
But the reality is that makes you a Hall of Famer in the mortgage business too. Like if you call 50 people, the average decent salesperson is probably going to get 4 or 5, maybe a 1 out of 10.
Yeah.
And you're amazing because the average for mortgage people, the average good referring realtor relationship, that's probably going to equate to $30,000 a year in commissions. So you don't need to hit a home run every single day.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's about the consistency, right? Like but I also think about when you're 0 for 50?
I don't know.
Because that happens,
Happens.
right? And the question is, what did you learn in that 0 for 50? Right? And it may be, now if you have been doing the same thing over and over and over again, and your lifetime is, 50 out of 500, 10% returns,
Yeah.
right? Then going 0 for 50 or 0 for 75, you're probably going to law of averages. You'll all of a sudden go 10 for 10 to balance out the, or 10 out of the next 25 to be out of your 10 out of 100.
Yep.
But even then, the only time, if you learn something from going even 0 for 100, and you're like, okay, I made 100 sales calls and I didn't get anywhere. Now, you have one or two options. Blame all those 100 people I called suck and it's all them and blah, 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 and, it's the market or whatever. Or you can say, is there something I could have done differently? What can I do differently to make that outcome different? You still haven't failed, because the only way to tweak and perfect your game is to come to a realization that the tweaking of your game is needed. And the only way for that to happen is to fail.
Fail.
Unless you're Tiger Woods and say, I can do better, right? And even then, he's not failing because he won 4 majors. He's failing because he's like, you know what? Whatever.
Someone's chasing me, I want to continue to get better.
Or a 60, there is no such, I guess the perfect score in golf is an 18.
Hole in one.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's impossible, but, right? Like, is 72 his par? That's not perfect because people shoot under par all day long, myself not included. I tweak my game to get below 100. But even 65 isn't great, or 60 or 59, right? There's always people like trying to break the course record, right? And that's what, that's a person at the elite level of their game tweaking, breaking his motor to make it even better, right? Like, and I look at it as the only way to become better is to quote unquote fail, is to break the system, question things, right? It's like, it's okay to ask questions about what you're doing. And I think that's the time is like you question what you're doing, not to, like even when you're 10 for 10, you probably can get better.
Yep.
Because that 10 for 10 is like, if you can't identify why you went 10 for 10, like you probably are a little lucky. You're probably in that hot swing. Yep. That's great. Ride that wave. Like, you know what I do when I'm 10 for 10? I don't change my underwear. I do all the things.
Lucky drawers today, man.
That's right. Because I'm 10 for 10. But the reality is you need to go 0 for 50 to be like, all right, what am I doing wrong? What am I saying something different? And if the answer is no, I'm not doing anything wrong, then you just need to keep on plugging, just stay, to have a positive mental attitude and keep on doing it. I do firmly believe that, I call it the biorhythm of sales, right? In baseball, right? Imagine, I'll ask viewers, unless you're driving, listen to this podcast, close your eyes.
Okay.
You're a baseball player.
Okay.
It is the 8th inning and it's your 4th time at bat. The first time, you frozen roped a liner into the gap and got a double. The second one, you hit a home run you literally saw it and hit a home run. The third one, you lined a single and you're now 3 for 3.
Mm-hmm.
It's your 4th time at bat. How's that ball looking like? How are you feeling?
Home run.
Home run. All right. Keep your eyes closed. This is like that movie with Matthew McConaughey. Now, it's a 4th time at bat, 8th inning. You've struck out on three pitches the first inning, the second inning, and third inning, or 3rd time at bat. Now, what's that baseball looking like when it's coming on your 4th? How are you feeling on the 4th at bat?
Looking like a golf ball. I don't know if I can hit that thing.
Right. You just want the game to be over. You're going through the motions. And I believe that's sales.
Yeah.
I believe when you're making your sales call and you're 0 for 10 or 0 for 20 or 0 for 30,
You're on. And when you're off, you're not.
that phone weighs 150 pounds. You are literally like, let me scroll Facebook for a couple minutes. You know what? I think it's probably the best time to go to the gym, right? Because you're like, I'm going to go organize my underwear drawer. I'm going to do all these things to not make the 31st call.
Right. Well, sometimes even the first call, like if you get your ass kicked yesterday and then you show up tomorrow, it's hard to pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to start sometimes, one thing that we don't do enough in sales, not many people do this, but in sports, they have the ability to, because it's just easier. But we can't, generally speaking, we don't have game tape. We can't go back and watch ourselves. So maybe a good tip would be to hey, while you're pounding the phone, while you're doing your sales calls, turn on Zoom and record it. And then later go back and listen to yourself. Would you buy from you? Did you like how you sold? Is that how you would want to be approached? Because I don't think in the business world, really in almost any business sales, whether it's car sales, real estate sales, mortgage sales, any sales, we're not walking around like a sports gate team.
Yeah. We're just looking at the tape, right?
Because people are watching, they're telecasting. So it's more watched, like video. I say watched. It's more recorded. But I think, man, if we could just record ourselves, could give ourselves the confidence to continue to break through those failures and, sharpen the stone, get better.
So that's a great segue to a non-sponsored sponsor who would be great if they sponsored us. We should probably send this recording to who I'm about to talk to. But I just invested in, and I'll show it on my camera. It's called Plaud, Plaud. I talked about this, right? So Plaud is
good segue.
is an AI recording device that can be attached to your phone. It can record phone calls. It can record sales meetings. It can record Zoom meetings, right? It can literally record. Here's what it does. It transcribes it, and then it has an AI component. I think I don't know if it's connected to OpenAI, but it has an AI component that recaps it, gives next steps. I've used it for interviews where when I'm interviewing a client, I can then kind of recap and see what my next steps are. But here's what's kind of cool that we're doing now with this feature is we have business development reps that make phone calls. Mm-hmm. So what we've done is we say, hey, take this for the day and record your sales calls. Mm. We then take the transcription and we've said to our guy, hey, who's your favorite sales guy? Zig Ziglar, right? Jim Rohn, Carl White, let's say any of those, right? Steve Kiles. And what we do is we put the transcript in ChatGPT and we say, act as Carl White, Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, Steve Kiles, and critique my sales call. Give me what the pros and the cons. And it does.
Cool.
Right? And it says, this is what you did really well. This is what you could have improved upon. And it does it in the style of the person doing it. And what we've learned is, as a sales leader, Adam, if I told you, and I mean, you and I have a great relationship, but if I sat in your room and I think I could probably sit in that chair behind you, listen to your sales calls, like, hey, this is what I would do differently. This is what right? And you may or may not take my advice. But if I say, Adam, who's your favorite sales guy? And you say Zig Ziglar.
Well, and Zig's got such a way that he talks about it. If it comes back in Zig's dialect, Zig's, then yeah, for sure.
And obviously Zig Ziglar, who's the sales Bible guy, is no longer on this planet. So the legacy of him lives in ChatGPT and AI, which is also another creepy thing.
So cool. Yeah.
But it's not me critiquing you. It's the computer that you told me who you wanted it to critique.
Critique, yeah.
And it's so much easier hearing it from a
unbiased
unbiased, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Totally just raw.
Right. So it's not me saying then you get in my head like, oh, Rick's trying to fire me. Oh, he thinks I'm a loser. Right. There's no emotion to it. It's AI doing it. So, right. So I thought that was again. So, Claude, I'm going to mention you in this podcast so you can pay us money to be on this podcast. But
We'll sponsor you, Claude.
yeah, but it is again failure only. I guess if you fail to learn from your swings and misses, I won't even call swings and misses failure. Right? Like, if as long as you learn and continue to grow, and that's kind of the growth mindset is you are not, as a business owner, as a branch manager, as a loan officer, as a salesperson, going to bat 100%.
Nope. And
if you are, then you are literally only going after the lowest hanging.
You're doing one deal.
Yes. I had a loan officer one time. So I worked at, as you know, Weichert Realtors, right? So Weichert Financial, we were the in-house lender for Weichert Realtors. And I had a loan officer who had below average capture rate, right? So we measured like the number of buyer controlled sales, how many loans we did, right? And she would always come back to me and say, however, she had the highest pull through in the company. So I think she had like a 92% pull through rate, right? She would write, out of 100 buyer controlled real estate sales in her office, she would write 30 loans. That was below average for us, but she would close 28 of them.
Wow.
And she would say, well, my pull through is unbelievable. And I would say, it is. You're number one in the company in your pull through. You're not taking enough chances. You're not taking enough risk. You're not throwing up tough deals and seeing if they stick. And I was from the venture of go after all of them. Mm-hmm. You're saying no on the pre-approvals too many times. And realtors are taking their business elsewhere. Mm-hmm. Right? So you're too conservative. Now, I'm not saying
and all to see if it sticks, right?
Right. And her counter argument is like, yeah, but I built this reputation of it. And she's right. But I would debate with her. I'm like, say yes more.
Yeah.
Get out of the box because you'll never grow.
An old boss at a different company. I'll never forget the conversation. This was as I was checking the company out. Because the company I was coming from was super, super, super conservative. And I said, I don't understand why you swing at so many deals. And he said, Adam, I expect 3% of the bottom 20% to go into foreclosure. But by not swinging at the bottom 20% at all, like most companies do, I get the 17%.
And they're probably very profitable.
Very. Yeah. We do have foreclosures. I expect a 3% foreclosure rate in the bottom 20%. I expect them to default. But because we can swing it so much more, it's okay.
Well, I will say 3% foreclosure on the bottom 20% means times that times 5, right? Then if your foreclosure rate probably like 1%.
Yeah.
Because 80% of it is not foreclosure. You know what I mean?
Because you're not going to get foreclosure. Exactly.
Right. But if you have a fine,
most companies don't want to have any foreclosures.
Correct.
But they were so conservative. And so when I interviewed this other company, I was like, wow, okay, that's an interesting take on it.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, and it makes a lot of sense. But all in all, failure is good.
Yes.
Fail early, fail often, fail forward. And if you want to grow, double your rate of failure.
Yeah. And use every failure as a learning teachable moment for yourself.
And sometimes like my mortgage business fell apart, in this last downturn. And I mean, you and I have talked a lot about this. Like I still have issues with it. Like I hoard cash now because
spoons in the purse. Spoons in the purse.
Inside joke, but that's the thing is like I hoard cash. because this last downturn scared the shit out of me. And I want to, like, we're in real estate, we're in mortgage specifically. We get punched in the face every 7 to 15 years. Well, I'm 40. I'm going to get punched in the face twice more. Let's prepare for it.
Yeah. Now look, you're keeping, it's a little different situation, right? Because you're keeping your nest egg.
Yes.
So you can continue to grow and continue to fail and continue to take shots, right? And I think there's people that haphazardly take risks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think that, and look, maybe I'm a conservative entrepreneur. Maybe that, you see people, big business people, and not to get politically, right? Donald Trump has been, he's had foreclosure or bankruptcy a bunch of times, right?
Yeah.
He's taken high risks.
But if you take risk, you're gonna have a lot of reward, but you're gonna get punched in the face.
Yes, and I think there's yes, and I think that I think that we've all entrepreneurs have failed.
Mm-hmm.
Good ones learn from it, and good ones have learned how to mitigate their losses in that failure.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and take a risk, take a calculated risk.
Exactly.
So let me ask you this, we have a couple minutes here, and I don't have an answer, but maybe I'll come up with one. Can you, off the top of your mind, give me an example of in this business that you failed?
Lots. I think there's different ways to fail. I think right now, like specifically, like I've got 47 active deals under contract today as we sit here on June 4th, 2025. My processor I have one processor that does all that. I'm in my system, I'm breaking that. So I need to either like I'm comfortable at about 40 to 42. That's her sweet spot in our internal pipeline. Okay. So do I stay at 40 or 42? Or do I try and leverage the business to grow it so that maybe I can go get a second one and now we can hold 80 as our capacity?
Second processor.
But in order to do that, I either have to double my business or I have to go recruit a team to help me double my business. Because again, what I don't want is hire another processor. It's June. We get through the summer rush. And then almost like the Formula One guy, right? Like, here's my engine. This is my mortgage branch. Send it. See where we can go. Where is it going to break? And sometimes where it breaks is on the lead side. Sometimes it's on the operational side. In the middle of May, we got like 14 contracts in 1 week. We broke the process getting disclosures out the door. Then we couldn't handle new leads. So I think you have to find where you have to continually stress the business so that the business can grow, so that you can become problem aware of where the issues are in the business.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
But also too, like, I failed with agent relationships. I failed with clients. We had a buyback on a deal that I had no idea was an issue that we're struggling to fix post-closing, and I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. It seemed all good to me, but once it got to investors, they had a problem with it.
Yeah.
Made total sense to me. I got it. I actually got our whole entire back-end team to believe, they're like, yeah, no, Crosley's right. But the investors still didn't want it. So it's, but yeah, I think all business is just a series of failing every day. And maybe we can end it with this. There's a good question for you, Rick. How do you make a diamond? You there, buddy? Oh, we lost you. Well, how do you make a diamond?
Pressure. Right?
Pressure.
Yeah.
There you go.
Pressure. Putting pressure
Back
back.
up. Heat and pressure.
Yes.
Heat and pressure. You have to turn up the heat and crank the pressure, and then you'll have something beautiful. And I think you have to have that in business and in life to have something beautiful. And part of that, the pressure comes from failure. So we would encourage you to go out into the world and fail.
Just don't quit.
Just don't freaking quit. Every day, show up. And just pound the stone. Get it done. Do the work. Never quit.
Yeah.
Burn the boats.
Failure is only when you give up, right? I used to have on my desk, there's a picture of like a bird swallowing a frog, and the frog has his arms, like the frog is all half down his throat, and the frog is squeezing the bird's neck, choking the bird, right? And it just says, "Don't give up."
Don't give up.
And I think that's and I think about that as you only truly fail when you throw in the towel. Think about, again, sports analogy. How many boxers have lost the first 5 rounds getting their asses kicked, only to come back and win, i.e. Rocky, right? Like, but if he threw in the towel, then he quit. Then he failed. Until then, it's, that's why baseball has 9 innings, why golf has 18 holes, right? You're not out of it till it's over. And you continue to learn and figure out ways to succeed, right? And I think about failures in my life, and usually it revolves around me over selling, right? Like, because usually it's I think about when I thought about failures, I thought about maybe wrong hires or got into wrong realtor business relationships, and I think in both those cases, it's because I was too quick to make the deal versus asking the right questions to see if it was the right deal to make.
No.
And I think a lot of failure happens because of that. Like, I'm so eager to get the deal that I took, I don't want to say shortcuts, but like, I need a loan officer. I start building this real estate relationship. I want to win the real estate relationship, even though the red signs are like, a bunch of people have failed before me. Why am I going to be different? I'm going to be different because I'm better, right? But then, a year later we failed. It's time to give up on the financial relationship or the MSA because, I probably didn't ask. I didn't set the stage, and I learned from that, right? You'll learn from each deal that. So the next time I go into a deal, I ask more pertinent questions. I learn more about the relationship, and I learn more, about the situation to not make that same mistake again.
Exactly.
And then you know what? It breaks again. It didn't work again, and I learned from it to eventually have a system down in place. So
cool. It was a great conversation today, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I didn't fail you.
I love it.
So thank you all for listening to this week's episode of the Growth Mindset Podcast. Please follow us. We have a Facebook page, as well as we have a co-marketed, cross-marketed Use the Ladder book, which has a Facebook group, as well as you can find that on usetheladderbook.com, where we share a lot of these ideas in written form, but obviously our podcast. So thank you guys all for listening. Until next time, peace.
Fail forward.
Fail forward.
You've been listening to The Growth Mindset, hosted by Adam Crosley and Rick Riddle. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with your colleagues. Stay tuned for more actionable insights to fuel your career success. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are personal and do not necessarily reflect the official policies, positions, or opinions of Absolute Home Mortgage Corporation or Crown Home Mortgage. The content is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered professional advice or an official endorsement by either organization.